thought about bringing in a cat, but they're both curled up in sunshine right now and I didn't want to disturb them. And the reason I thought about bringing in a cat's because I glued yarn on a doll, but that's all I've done since last week. So yeah, I was not happy with her basically two-tone blonde hair. And I actually I got into my doll hair yarn potential use stash and got these out. And I started with this yarn, and this is that yarn that has the, I showed it to you a few months ago. If you can find this heavier thread in the middle, you can pull it and make curls that you can glue onto a doll, like I did with him for his curls. And then the rest of the hair is just the yarn snipped really, really short and glued all over his head. So, but I kind of did the other thing I'd been wanting to try with this yarn, is basically I cut a section and then I pulled that center heavier thread out completely, and there's also a really light thread that goes around the outside that holds it in place. I also removed that, and so that gave me pieces like this that I could separate into little bits that I was using for a proper reroute, my anchor thread method. And then once you brush it, like, the end comes off and it's this long, but then you can actually use this stuff to also work with. And then you brush it and it gets really fluffy, and it's just fluffy, multicolor, gray hair. The thing is, I followed the doll's original rooting pattern, and the part pretty much destroyed itself. The vinyl, I started with the part and I did the part, and then I did her hairline. Then I decided to make a little punk, so I did the hairline back around, was coming back up toward the front. Actually, I think I made it all the way back up the front of the hairline. I was going back up in, and then I'd switched to the purple. I was starting to go into a second layer in the middle, and then that's when I noticed that where the part had been rooted, it was just a whole bunch of loops of thread sticking out because the vinyl was just torn completely. So I sighed and I cut all that hair off and I removed everything. And then what I did with gluing on is I started with, like I said, the back of this, just putting glue all over the head and gluing really short snipped yarn all over it. And then I took many pieces of all of these and sewed them together down the center. It used to be a doll making site called, I think, Antoinette Seeley. I don't remember her first name. Seeley Dolls. And the way she had a tutorial in the early 2000s for making wefts. And I can't remember if she was using mohair or doll hair fibers, or if I think that's before anybody had figured out that you could brush yarn to make it all fluffy like this. And I just remember her big tip for sewing stuff like this together is you need to put a barrier on either side. She was using tissue paper or tracing paper. I just grabbed a square of toilet paper and split the plies apart and folded it over the hair and sewed right down the middle of that, and then removed the toilet paper. And so that gave me... And then the other thing that the Seeley Dolls instructions was, you sew it this way, and then you flip it over, and then you carefully part so that the seam is like here and the hair is coming out here, so that once you have this sort of part made, which I don't know if it will show up in the video, you don't have the thread exposed. So I did that, and then I glued that on here, and then I just glued on a few random other pieces like this coming up to the front to the back like that, and gluing that in place. And I mean, if you dig around, you can find some of the thread because of course I didn't change it to match. I just did what I had because everything I do is impulsive. So obviously I have some different, maybe witchier hair on this doll now, and obviously I also have not repainted her face. I'm not sure when I will be motivated to paint, but hopefully I'll actually remember that I want to paint her whenever I do. Oh, I will say, my friend Modern Wizard, who's big into customizing dolls in the Doctor Who character family, actually is one of these McGonagalls to make Missy, Michelle Gomez's master. And I'm not a Doctor Who fan. I've never watched Doctor Who, but I have a lot of people online who are friends who like Doctor Who, so I've absorbed stuff, especially the way Missy looked, and she actually got a pretty good likeness of Michelle Gomez out of this sculpt. So I had been wondering when I was working with this if it was possible, but I wasn't sure, and then I went on and she had. So here we go. She is a versatile sculpt. We'll see what I do with her whenever I do it. And that's the only doll thing well, I was in Walmart this morning looking at dolls, even though I have another like month and a week to go for my 3 doll not buying stretch. So the reason I've been doing so well with that is because I haven't been looking, but I was in there looking today. And first thing I saw is the new Harry Potter Quidditch dolls, which is another Harry Potter and a Draco Malfoy, who has the oddest expression. And I didn't even realize till I got back and started talking about it, and somebody else had also seen the dolls this morning and posted a picture, and people said, yeah, I've seen that. There's this like huge bad C molded on the bottom of the neck, bottom of the chin. So it's just, I'll probably never get that doll, but I'm sure if anybody can figure out how to fix those badly molded chins, the doll, and somebody said a lot of Kelly dolls have it now too, then that will be a very helpful customizing thing. Yes, I'm babbling because I have nothing to talk about. So I obviously did not buy that, and other people were reporting like most of the Harry Potter dolls are still full price, except Dumbledore's $15 and Ginny Weasley is $11. But everybody else is still full price. And I noticed, well, a lot of the fashionistas were still in the regular doll aisle, and they were marked down to $4. But the doll aisle was pretty trashed looking. But I noticed that the mountain climber, the made-to-move mountain climbers, were missing. So I did find them in the clearance section, and when I hiked across the store to scan it, it was still full price. But there were 2 made-to-move baseball players left, and they were marked down to $7. And I did consider them, but one, I have plenty of bodies to match that in the same skin tone. I have plenty of bodies in the same skin. I have plenty of bodies in the same skin tone, but a lot of the heads that I have in reserve aren't that skin tone. So getting more bodies in that skin tone wouldn't really help me get the heads used. And I know I could take an existing doll and put it on that body, but I actually think that most of the dolls that I really like that have that skin tone are already on Made to Move or other good bodies. So I put them down and walked away, and yes, I know probably a lot of people think I'm a fool for leaving 2 $7 Made to Moves behind, but the thing that really convinced me to not get them, I mean, I was sitting there thinking, well, we could consider these not dolls, but accessories, because the doll is in all the personalities in the head, so this is just changing their body. But then I thought, well, if you get these, what's to stop you from going and grabbing an armload of dolls at the thrift store when you have an armload of dolls that need to be used at home? So I put down the Made to Moves and left. And now I think that's all the doll stuff I have to talk about. I started cutting out stuff to sew a dress for me, and I got all the main pieces cut out last night, and it is beautiful, gorgeous, sunny, which makes me more likely to sew when it's nice and bright like this. but then I had the idea that I really want to make a big applique to put on the skirt, and I don't know what to do. So that's my excuse for not working on that project now. I'd been hoping though to have the dress finished to wear for this video, but I didn't. So maybe next week I'll have things sorted out. And you know, getting into too much information, I finally figured out the reason that like I had that burst of activity painting all those faces and then nothing. It's because I had PMS. So that's, hopefully we'll get back to normal, and I will get back to normal productivity soon, I hope, and stop babbling in videos and actually have stuff to show you. But like I always say, we'll find out next week. Thanks for watching.